Britain's nuclear power programme comes under the Department of Energy. Secretary of State for Energy is Tony Benn.
Well, I was put in charge of it first in 1966, and that was the Ministry of Technology. And the general argument was the nuclear power was cheap, it was safe, and it was peaceful. And that was the basis on which the government of which I was a member, and I was responsible for it, based their argument. What I learned by experience there, because I was in charge of nuclear power for, I don't know, about 8 or 9 years, I learned that all the arguments for civil nuclear power were wrong. And then I was in the Navy, and I remember standing in the mess at lunchtime and hearing on the news that an atomic bomb had been dropped at Hiroshima. So then, in 1955, when Eisenhower made his speech about atoms for peace, having been brought up on the Bible, I thought this is the classic case of swords into plowshares. And I became very enthusiastic about it and thought it was wonderful, it would solve the world's problems. But at that time, at the beginning, I did not realize, and I learned by experience as the minister in charge of the industry, these three things: it wasn't cheap, it wasn't safe, and it wasn't peaceful. And that was why my opinion shifted. If you take the cost, you see, the cost of nuclear power as presented never included the research that was done. And that's pretty expensive. Much of it military research. It was allegedly applied to civil purposes. But the really big cost was disposal of nuclear waste, and no thought was given to that. Indeed, even today, they haven't found a totally satisfactory answer. Then, was it safe? Well, if you take the experience, I don't know where you start. Kistim in Russia, there was a reprocessing plant, and there was a very, very serious accident there. Then there was 3 Mile Island, where, you know, the whole station went down. Then there was Windscale. Now, that's another example. There was a very big fire at Windscale. The question of cancer risk was inherent in the whole question of nuclear activity. I'll give you one example of that. I had a trade union official come to me and he said, I have a member who worked in Windscale and he has developed cancer and he wants to claim. So I looked at it very carefully. I said, right, okay, I agree. Oh, the whole of Whitehall was up in arms. I called a meeting, and this was about one guy's compensation, and the Chief Medical Advisor of the Ministry of Defence was there, the Chief Medical Advisor of the Ministry of Pensions was there, and what they didn't want was any provable link between nuclear activity and health. Nobody denied that there are hazards in nuclear power, just as there are hazards in mining, hazards in oil, hazards in a lot of life, aspects of life. But at least when we examined it, members of Parliament as a whole agreed that these factors were not sufficient to rule out the role of nuclear power and Windscale's part in it, and I share that view myself. But I did authorise power stations, and it wasn't until later that my conclusion that it was just quite unacceptable source of energy came. I mean, you learn by experience. And then the final information was after I'd left office. Without telling me, I discovered the plutonium from our civil power stations had gone to America for their weapons programs. So every Atoms for Peace power station was a bomb factory for America.